The great station of Nexus Prime floated in the endless black of space, like a jewel made of light and metal. It was the heart of the Galactic Council, a place where 1,000 species came to talk, to trade, and to decide the fate of worlds. The station was so large that it had its own gravity, its own weather, and cities that stretched across its surface like veins of silver. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood near a window and watched ships arrive from distant stars. She was a tall woman with dark hair turning gray at the temples and eyes that had seen too much disappointment. For 15 years, she had represented Earth at the Galactic Council. For 15 years, she had sat in the back rows with the other lesser species, while the great powers of the galaxy decided everything that mattered. Today was the Centennial Summit, a gathering that happened only once every 100 years. Every species with a seat on the council had sent their leaders. The meeting hall was a vast dome of crystal and light, with thousands of seats arranged in circles that rose toward the ceiling. At the center sat the elder races, the species that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. The Vethkai were there, tall insect-like beings with shining black shells and eyes that reflected no light. They were the oldest of the elder races, and they believed this gave them the right to look down on everyone else. Next to them floated the Oruan, creatures made of living crystal that sang when they spoke and glowed with inner fire. And high above, in special chambers filled with swirling gases, the Mahlari watched through sensors and screens. They were beings of pure thought who lived in the crushing depths of gas giant planets. Elena took her seat in row 47, between a nervous ambassador from a world of sentient plants and a silent representative from a species of cave dwellers. No one looked at her. No one cared that she was there. High Arbiter Kethfallen of the Vethkai stood at the center of the chamber. He was ancient even by his species' long standards. His black shell covered with marks of honor, and his voice like the sound of stones grinding together. We gathered today to address matters of territory, trade, and peace, he announced. Let the lesser petitions be heard first, so that we may move on to important business. Elena felt the insult but kept her face calm. She had learned long ago that showing anger only made things worse. When her turn came, she stood and walked to the speaking platform. Thousands of alien eyes watched her, most of them bored, some of them amused. Honored members of the council, she began, Earth requests an expansion of our territorial rights in the Kepler sector. Our population is growing, and we need room to build new colonies. We also ask for protection agreements against the Krath hegemony, whose slave ships have been seen near our borders. A sound passed through the chamber. It took Elena a moment to realize it was laughter. High Arbiter Kethfallen leaned forward. The humans ask for more territory? The humans ask for protection? He made a clicking sound that his species used to show amusement. Your kind has been part of this council for 80 years. In that time, you have contributed nothing of value. Your technology is primitive. Your military is weak. Your species cannot even agree among yourselves on simple matters. We have worked hard to, Elena started. You have worked hard to be a burden, the Arbiter interrupted. The Kepler sector contains resources that the elder races may need someday. We will not waste them on a species that will likely destroy itself within a few centuries anyway. More laughter. Elena stood there and took it. She had no choice. As for the Krath, the Arbiter continued, they are valued members of this council. Their methods may seem harsh, but they maintain order in their sector. If humans wander into their space, that is not our concern. Elena returned to her seat. The plant ambassador beside her rustled with sympathy. The cave dweller said nothing. The summit continued for hours, with the elder races dividing up resources and making grand speeches about peace and cooperation. Peace for them, Elena thought. Cooperation that served their interests. When the session finally ended, Elena walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime toward her ship. Her footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. She had failed again. Earth had been ignored again. Nothing ever changed. Then her communicator vibrated with a coded message. She stepped into a quiet corner and read the words on the screen. Prometheus complete. All 12 vessels ready for deployment. Awaiting your authorization. Elena read the message 3 times. Her heart beat faster, but her face showed nothing. She had learned to hide her feelings in 15 years of diplomatic failure. She thought about the secret that Earth had kept for 60 years. It had started with a discovery in the Oort cloud, the distant ring of ice and rock at the edge of the solar system. A ship had been found there, crashed and ancient, belonging to a species called the Architects. They had vanished 10,000 years ago, before even the Vefkai rose to power. No one knew what happened to them, but humanity had found their ship. And in that ship, they had found technology beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Technology that could control dark matter itself, the invisible force that held the universe together. For 60 years, the best scientists on Earth had worked in secret. They had built shipyards in the darkness beyond Pluto. They had tested weapons that could tear apart the fabric of space. They had created 12 warships that broke every law of physics the Council knew. The Council thought humanity was weak. The Council thought humanity was primitive. The Council had no idea what was coming. Elena typed a reply to the message. Hold position. Wait for my signal. The time is not yet right. She put the communicator away and continued walking to her ship. Behind her, the lights of Nexus Prime glittered like stars. The elder races were celebrating another successful summit, congratulating themselves on keeping the lesser species in their place. Elena smiled. It was not a kind smile. Let them laugh, she thought. Let them believe we are nothing. When the truth comes out, they will remember this day. They will remember how they treated us, and they will be afraid. She boarded her ship and set course for Earth. The journey would take 3 days. 3 days to plan, to prepare, to wait. Humanity had been patient for 80 years. They could be patient a little longer, but not much longer. In the cold darkness of the Oort cloud, 12 ships waited in silence. Their hulls were black as night, covered with patterns that seemed to move and shift when you looked at them. They did not reflect light. They did not show up on sensors. They were ghosts made of metal and power, and they were ready for war. 3 months passed after the summit at Nexus Prime. Life in the galaxy continued as it always had, with the elder races at the top and everyone else below them. Humanity remained quiet, ignored, forgotten. Then the Krath came. New Carthage was a small human colony on a green world at the edge of explored space. 50,000 people lived there, mostly farmers and miners and their families. They had built simple homes and planted crops in the rich soil. They had schools for their children and hospitals for their sick. They thought they were safe. War Master Golvex did not believe in safety. He was a massive creature covered in gray scales, with 4 arms and teeth like knives. His people, the Krath, had been slavers for 2,000 years. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who complained. The Galactic Council looked the other way because the Krath were useful and because no one wanted to fight them. Golvex brought 400 warships to New Carthage. His dreadnoughts were mountains of metal bristling with weapons. His slave transports were ready to be filled with human prisoners. He had done this many times before to many worlds. It was easy. It was fun. The colony's defense station detected the Krath fleet and sent out a desperate call for help. Governor Sarah Chun ordered an evacuation, but there was no time and nowhere to go. The people of New Carthage could only watch as death filled their sky. Golvex opened a communication channel. His ugly face appeared on every screen on the planet. "Humans," he growled. "Your Galactic Council has abandoned you. No one is coming to save you. Surrender now, and some of you will live as our slaves. Resist, and you will all die screaming. You have 1 hour to decide." He closed the channel and waited. This was his favorite part, the waiting. He liked to imagine the fear spreading through the population, the families crying, the brave ones giving up hope. When the hour ended, he would attack regardless of their answer. He always did. 40 minutes passed. Golvex was drinking blood wine and laughing with his officers when a sensor officer interrupted him. "War Master, we are detecting strange readings at the edge of the system." "Strange how?" Golvex did not like being interrupted. Unknown energy signatures. They appeared from nowhere. 12 contacts. Golvex checked his screens. 12 contacts. Against 400 Krath warships. He laughed so hard that wine spilled down his armor. 12 ships? The humans have sent 12 ships to stop us? He turned to his officers. "This will be amusing. Let them approach. I want to see what pathetic toys the primitives have built." The 12 ships moved closer. As they came into visual range, the laughter on the Krath bridge died. The human vessels were unlike anything Golvex had ever seen. They were smaller than his dreadnoughts, but shaped wrong, as if geometry itself was confused by them. Their hulls were black, but not solid black. Colors moved beneath the surface, dark purples and blues that hurt the eyes. Light bent around them strangely. Space itself seemed to twist where they passed. "What are those things?" whispered an officer. Before anyone could answer, a message came through on all channels. A human face appeared, a dark-skinned man with gray in his hair and steel in his eyes. He wore a simple uniform with a name above his heart, Admiral James Okonkwo. "Krath hegemony vessels," he said calmly. "You have violated human sovereign space. You have threatened human lives. You have 30 seconds to withdraw. There will be no second warning." Golvex stared at the screen. Then he began to laugh again. 30 seconds? You threaten me with 12 ships and give me 30 seconds? He slammed his fist on the console. "All ships, open fire. Destroy these insects." 400 Krath warships unleashed their weapons. Plasma cannons, missile swarms, particle beams. The space around the human fleet filled with fire and death. The human ships did not move. They did not dodge. They did not raise shields. The weapons passed through them like light through water. Every shot missed. Every missile flew past empty space where the ships should have been, but somehow were not. "Impossible," breathed the sensor officer. They are not entirely in our dimension." Admiral Okonkwo's voice came through the channel one more time. "You were warned." The human fleet moved. Golvex had seen many battles in his long career. He had killed millions and conquered dozens of worlds. He thought he understood war. He understood nothing. The lead human ship, marked with the name UES Prometheus, accelerated toward the center of the Krath formation. It did not fire weapons. It simply flew directly at the nearest dreadnought, a massive vessel called the Claw of Victory Dot, and then it flew through it. The Prometheus passed through the Claw of Victory like a ghost through a wall. Where it touched the Krath ship, matter simply came apart. Atoms separated from atoms. Metal became dust. The dreadnought did not explode. It dissolved. One moment it was a mighty warship with 10,000 crew. The next moment it was a cloud of particles spreading through space that the other human ships attacked at the same time. They did not use missiles or beams. They used something else. Something that twisted space and crushed matter and broke the laws of physics like toys. One ship created a gravity, while that pulled a Krath destroyer into itself. The destroyer crumpled like paper, smaller and smaller until it was a ball. The size of a human fist. Another ship sent out waves of darkness that unmade everything they touched. Craft vessels caught in the waves simply stopped existing. No explosions. No debris. Just emptiness where ships had been. Golvex watched his fleet die around him. 400 ships became 300. 300 became 200. 200 became 100. Retreat. He screamed. All ships retreat. But there was nowhere to go. The human ships were everywhere and nowhere. They moved through space in ways that made no sense. They appeared beside craft vessels and then were gone before anyone could react. 7 minutes after the battle began, it was over. Golvex stood on the bridge of his flagship, alone. His officers were dead. His crew was dead. His fleet was gone. Only his ship remained, and he knew that was by choice. Admiral Okonkwo appeared on his screen again. "Go home," the Admiral said. "Tell your masters what you saw here. Tell them that humanity is no longer prey. Tell them that if any craft ship enters human space again, we will come to your homeworld and do to it what we did to your fleet." The communication ended. Golvex's flagship drifted in a sea of dust that had once been 400 warships. Around him, the 12 human vessels turned and moved toward New Carthage, their impossible hulls shimmering with power. On the planet below, the people who had been waiting to die looked up at the sky and saw salvation. Governor Chun wept as she watched the human fleet take position above her world. The battle had been broadcast on emergency channels. Every ship in the sector had seen it. Within hours, every world in the galaxy would see it. The elder races at their seats of power watched the recording again and again. They watched weapons pass through ships that should not exist. They watched dreadnoughts dissolve into nothing. They watched the galaxy change forever. High Arbiter Cat Valen stood in his chambers on Nexus Prime and felt something he had not felt in 300 years. Fear that the humans were not primitive. The humans were not weak. The humans had been hiding something that could end civilizations. And now everyone knew. The Galactic Council had not seen such chaos in 1,000 years. Ambassadors shouted at each other across the Great Hall. Species that had been allies for centuries now looked at each other with suspicion. And at the center of every argument, every fear, every angry word was the same question. What do we do about the humans? 1 week had passed since the Battle of New Carthage. 1 week since 12 impossible ships destroyed 400 craft dreadnoughts in 7 minutes. 1 week since everything the galaxy believed about humanity turned out to be wrong. High Arbiter Cathvalan called for silence. His voice, amplified by ancient technology, echoed through the chamber like thunder. The shouting stopped. The ambassadors turned to face him. "We must have order," he declared. "Panic serves no one. Let us discuss this matter with reason and wisdom." But there was little reason and less wisdom in the hall that day. The Vethkai delegation demanded that humanity surrender their abomination technology immediately. The Orun sang mournful notes about the balance of power being destroyed. Representatives from a dozen smaller species whispered among themselves, wondering if they should seek alliance with Earth before it was too late. The Malari, floating in their gas-filled chambers, said nothing. They had withdrawn from the discussion entirely. Their great minds were busy calculating probabilities and outcomes, and none of them were good. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat in her usual place in row 47. But today, every eye in the chamber turned to look at her. Today, she was not invisible. When her turn came to speak, she walked to the center platform with calm steps. She wore the same simple clothes as always. Her face showed no pride, no triumph, no anger. She looked like what she was, a diplomat doing her job. "Honored members of the council," she began, "I understand your concerns. The events at New Carthage have raised many questions. I am here to answer them. Answer this then: shouted Ambassador Velthrax of the Krath, his scales flushed with rage. Your ships committed an act of war against my people. 400,000 Krath warriors are dead. What do you have to say for yourselves? Elena turned to face him. Your warriors came to enslave my people. They threatened to kill 50,000 innocent civilians. They gave us 30 seconds to surrender or die. Her voice remained steady. We chose a third option. The Krath are valued members of this council. Velthrax roared. The Krath are slavers and murderers, Elena replied. And the council has protected them for centuries because they were useful and because they were strong. She paused. They are not strong anymore. Silence fell over the chamber. No one had ever spoken to a Krath representative like that. No one had ever dared. High Arbiter Kethvalen leaned forward. Ambassador Vasquez, where did humanity obtain this technology? Our records show nothing that could explain such weapons. Your species should not have been capable of this for another 1,000 years. Elena nodded. You are right. We should not have been capable. But 60 years ago, we found something in our own solar system. A ship, crashed and ancient, hidden in the ice and rocks at the edge of our territory. She let the words hang in the air. The ship belonged to the architects. A gas passed through the chamber. The architects were legend, myth, ancient history. They had vanished 10,000 years ago, before any current civilization rose to power. No one knew what happened to them. No one had ever found their technology. Impossible, said Kethvalen. The architects are gone. Nothing remains of them. Something remains, Elena said. Their ship carried records, technology, and a warning. We spent 60 years studying what we found. We learned to do what they could do. We learned to control dark matter. The Orowan crystal sang in distress. Dark matter was the invisible force that held galaxies together. It made up most of the universe, but could not be seen or touched by normal means. The idea of controlling it was like the idea of controlling gravity itself. This is dangerous beyond measure, said the Orowan speaker. Such power should not exist in mortal hands. Perhaps not, Elena agreed. But it does exist. And we have it. High Arbiter Kethvalen stood, his ancient shell creaking. You speak of a warning. What warning? Elena's face grew serious. The architects left a message. They told us why they built their weapons. They told us why they vanished. She looked around the chamber at all the species gathered there. Something is coming. Something from outside our galaxy. Something that destroys everything in its path. More lies, spat the Krath ambassador. You tell us stories to justify your aggression. The architects called them the Void Swarm. Elena continued as if he had not spoken. They are creatures of darkness that exist between galaxies. Every few million years, they wake and feed. They consume everything. Stars, planets, entire civilizations. The architects tried to fight them. They built their dark matter technology for that purpose. She paused. They failed. But before they died, they left their knowledge behind, hoping someone else might succeed. The chamber erupted in argument. Some ambassadors called Elena a liar. Others demanded proof. A few looked frightened in ways they could not hide. High Arbiter Kethvalen raised his hand for silence. Even if this story is true, it does not change the present situation. Humanity has weapons that threaten the stability of the galaxy. This cannot be allowed. Then what do you propose? Elena asked. I propose that humanity surrender its fleet and its technology to the Council. We will study these weapons and decide how they should be used. Your species will be compensated with expanded territory and full membership in the Elder Council. Elena almost smiled. You want us to give you our ships so you can point them at us. I want to protect the galaxy from chaos. You want to protect your power. The two stared at each other across the chamber. Ancient insect and young human. 10,000 years of dominance against 80 years of patience. Humanity will not surrender its fleet, Elena said finally. We built these ships to protect ourselves because no one else would. We asked you for help against the slavers. You laughed at us. We asked for respect. You mocked us. Now you want us to trust you with the only thing that keeps us safe? She shook her head. No. Then you leave us no choice, Kethvallen declared. I call for a vote. All species willing to join a military coalition against humanity, signal your agreement now. Lights appeared across the chamber. One by one, species voted yes. The Vethkai, the Krath, the Oruan. 9 more species, some because they feared humanity, some because they feared the Vethkai more. The vote is decided, Kethvallen announced. 12 species will form the Grand Armada. Humanity has 6 months to surrender. After that, we will take what you will not give. Elena stood alone on the platform, surrounded by enemies. But her voice did not waver. You are making a mistake, she said quietly. The Void Swarm is coming. We need to stand together, not fight each other. When the darkness arrives, you will understand. I only hope it will not be too late. She walked out of the chamber while the council watched in silence. The doors closed behind her. 6 months. Humanity had 6 months to prepare for the largest war the galaxy had ever seen, and somewhere beyond the edge of known space, in the void between galaxies, something ancient began to wake. The Grand Armada gathered at the Kepler threshold, the invisible line that marked the edge of human space. 12,000 warships from 12 species filled the darkness like a sea of angry stars. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in the history of the galaxy. High Arbiter Kethvallen stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. He looked at the tactical display and felt satisfaction wash over him. No force in existence could stand against such power. The humans had made a mistake when they refused to surrender. Now they would learn the price of defiance. 6 months had passed since the vote at the council. 6 months of building ships, training crews, and planning the attack. The elder races had put aside their differences to face a common enemy. For the first time in centuries, they worked together toward a single goal: the destruction of humanity's dark matter fleet. All ships report ready, High Arbiter, his tactical officer announced. We await your command. Kethvallen turned to the communication screen. Open a channel to the human fleet. On the other side of the threshold, Admiral James Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus. Around him, 47 human ships held position in a loose sphere formation, 47 against 12,000. The numbers seemed impossible, but numbers had seemed impossible at New Carthage too. The Admiral's face appeared on screens, across both fleets. He looked tired but calm, like a man who had accepted whatever fate would bring. High Arbiter, he said. You have brought quite a gathering. Admiral Okonkwo, Kethvallen replied. You know why we are here. Surrender your fleet and your technology. Your people will be treated fairly. This is my final offer. Okonkwo smiled sadly. I gave the Krath a final offer once. They did not listen. I suspect you will not listen either. We have 12,000 ships. You have 47. This is not a battle you can win. Perhaps not. The Admiral paused. But I wonder, High Arbiter, have you thought about why we built these ships? Do you really believe it was to threaten you? You destroyed 400 Krath vessels in 7 minutes. Your intentions are clear. Those vessels came to enslave our people. We defended ourselves, nothing more. Okonkwo leaned forward. The architects did not create their technology to conquer the galaxy. They created it to save the galaxy. We tried to tell your council this. You would not listen. Your stories of monsters in the void are transparent lies. Admiral Okonkwo looked at something off-screen. His face changed. Something flickered in his eyes that might have been fear or might have been relief. "Aye, Arbiter," he said quietly. "You should look behind you." Kethvalen made a clicking sound of annoyance. "I will not fall for such obvious tricks. This is not a trick." The Admiral's voice was heavy. "Check your sensors. Long range. Beyond the threshold. Something is coming." Something in Okonkwo's tone made Kethvalen pause. He turned to his sensor officer. "Scan the area beyond the human fleet. Maximum range." The officer worked at his console. Then he stopped. Then he ran the scan again. His hands began to shake. "Aye, Arbiter," he whispered. "There is something there. Something large. Very large." Every ship in the Grand Armada turned their sensors toward the darkness beyond human space. What they found made battle-hardened warriors freeze in terror. It was the size of a small moon. It was made of absolute darkness. A shadow given form. A hole in the fabric of reality. It moved slowly toward the gathered fleets, and where it passed, stars seemed to dim. Sensors could not understand it. Computers gave error messages. It should not exist, but it did. "What is that thing?" Kethvalen breathed. Admiral Okonkwo's voice came through the channel. "We call them harbingers. They are scouts of the Void Swarm. The architects fought thousands of them 10,000 years ago." He paused. "They lost." The Harbinger ignored both fleets as if they were insects beneath its notice. It drifted toward a Vethkai colony world that floated nearby, a planet of 3 billion souls called Vethkar Prime. "All ships, open fire on that object," Kethvalen commanded. The Grand Armada turned its weapons on the Harbinger. 12,000 ships fired at once. Plasma beams, nuclear missiles, particle cannons, gravity bombs. The combined firepower could have cracked a planet. The Harbinger did not slow. It did not notice. The weapons struck its surface and simply vanished, swallowed by the darkness. "No effect," the sensor officer reported, his voice breaking. "No effect at all." The Harbinger reached Vethkar Prime. From its center, a beam of pure black shot down toward the planet. Where the beam touched, the world began to unravel. Continents split apart. Oceans boiled into space. 3 billion Vethkai screamed as their world was eaten alive. Kethvalen watched his people die. He had lived for 300 years. He had seen wars and plagues and disasters. He had never seen anything like this. "There must be something we can do," he said. "There must be some way to stop it." "There is one way," Admiral Okonkwo replied. "Watch closely. This is why we built what we built. This is what we were preparing for." On the tactical display, one human ship broke formation and accelerated toward the Harbinger. The UES Prometheus, the first of its kind, the pride of the human fleet. "Admiral," called his first officer, "what are you doing?" Okonkwo's voice was calm. "What we were made for." The Prometheus flew directly at the Harbinger. Its dark matter engines pushed it faster than any ship should move. Around it, space twisted and bent as the ship gathered power. "All ships," Okonkwo broadcast on every channel, "human and council alike, move back. Get clear of the area. What happens next will be dangerous." The Grand Armada scattered. Even Kethvalen ordered his ships to retreat. Something in the human admiral's voice told him this was not a bluff. The Prometheus reached the Harbinger. It did not stop. It did not turn. It flew directly into the center of the darkness dot, and then it detonated its reactor. For one impossible moment, the laws of physics screamed. A light brighter than any sun filled the void. The darkness of the Harbinger met the power of dark matter itself, and the universe shook from the collision. The Harbinger shuddered. Its form twisted and writhed. Cracks appeared in its darkness, and through those cracks poured light that was not light, energy that was not energy. The ancient creature from between galaxies, a being that had destroyed countless worlds, felt pain for the first time in a million years. It collapsed. It fell in upon itself, consumed by the same darkness that had made it. Where it had floated, only emptiness remained. The Prometheus was gone. Admiral Okonkwo was gone. They had given their lives to prove that the enemy could be killed. Silence fell across both fleets. 12,000 ships and 46 human vessels floated in space, surrounded by the dust of a dead monster and the remains of a world. High Arbiter Keth Valen stared at his screen. His hands trembled. His ancient mind struggled to understand what he had seen. The humans had been telling the truth. The Void Swarm was real, and humanity's terrible weapons were the only thing that could stop them. A new message came through from the human fleet. A woman's voice, tired and sad but determined. "This is Captain Yuki Tanaka, now in command of the human fleet. High Arbiter, the Harbinger you just saw was only a scout. There are more coming. Many more. We do not have time to fight each other. We need to work together or everything dies." Kat Valen closed his eyes. 300 years of certainty crumbled around him. Everything he believed about humans, about the galaxy, about his own importance, was wrong. "What would you have us do?" he asked quietly. "Come with us," Tanaka replied. "Let us show you what we know. Let us prepare together for what is coming." Behind them, the ruins of Vethka Prime drifted through space, a tomb for 3 billion people. A reminder of what waited in the darkness between galaxies. The war between humans and the Council was over before it began. A greater war was about to start. 1 year had passed since the day everything changed. 1 year since a Harbinger destroyed Vethkar Prime. 1 year since Admiral James Okonkwo gave his life to prove that the darkness could be defeated. The galaxy was different now. The Galactic Council still met at Nexus Prime, but the Great Hall looked nothing like it had before. Where species had once sat in rows based on their importance, they now sat in circles based on their purpose. Scientists with scientists, soldiers with soldiers, engineers with engineers. The old order was gone. The elder races and the lesser species worked together, now because they had no other choice. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the chamber, but she was not called ambassador anymore. By unanimous vote of every species in the council, she had been named High Ambassador, the first human to hold the highest diplomatic rank in galactic history. Behind her, holographic images floated in the air. They showed the forge yards of Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Massive shipyards stretched across the frozen surface, bigger than cities, bigger than nations. Inside them, hundreds of new warships took shape. But these were not just human ships. Vethkai engineers worked beside human scientists, their black shells covered with welding marks and engine grease. Aruan crystal singers contributed their knowledge of energy harmonics, making the dark matter reactors more stable and more powerful. Even the Malari had emerged from their gas giants, sharing mathematical theories that made the weapons more precise. 30 species had joined what they called the United Galactic Defense Initiative. 30 species building weapons together, training together, preparing together for the storm that was coming. Elena looked around the chamber at all the faces watching her. Some were friends now. Some were still suspicious. All of them were afraid, even if they hid it well. 1 year ago, she began, we stood on the edge of war with each other. Today, we stand together against a greater enemy. I want you to know that humanity does not take this responsibility lightly. We did not ask to be the ones who found the architect's technology. We did not ask to be the first line of defense against the Void Swarm. But this is where we are, and we will not fail you. She touched a control, and the holographic display changed. It showed the edge of the galaxy, a distant place where stars grew thin and darkness stretched forever. In that darkness, Sensors had detected movement. Hundreds of shapes, each one as large as the harbinger that had destroyed Vethkar Prime, drifting slowly toward the light. Our scouts have confirmed what we feared, Elena continued. The Void Swarm is waking. At least 300 harbingers have been detected at the galaxy's edge. They will reach inhabited space within 2 years. A murmur passed through the chamber. 300 harbingers. The one at Vethkar Prime had destroyed a planet before Admiral Okonkwo stopped it. 300 could burn the galaxy to ashes. But we are not helpless, Elena said, raising her voice. In the past year, we have built 200 dark matter warships. 50 more are completed each month. By the time the swarm arrives, we will have a fleet of over 600 vessels, crewed by soldiers from every species represented here. She paused and looked directly at High Arbiter Kethvalen, who sat in the front row. The ancient Vethkai had changed in the past year. His shell seemed duller, his movements slower. He had watched 3 billion of his people die because he refused to listen to a warning. That weight showed in everything he did. We have also shared our technology freely, Elena continued. Not because we had to. Not because you forced us. Because we chose to. Because facing the swarm alone would be foolish, and humanity has learned to be wise. Kethvalen rose slowly from his seat. The chamber fell silent. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than it had ever been in 300 years. I have lived a long time, he said. I have made many decisions, some good, some bad. But no decision haunts me more than what I said to humanity at the summit 1 year ago. I called you primitive, weak, insignificant. He paused, his compound eyes reflecting the light of the holograms. I was wrong. He turned to face the full assembly. We Vethkai have led this council for 10,000 years. We believed we had the right to lead because we were oldest and strongest. We believed the younger species were children who needed to be guided and controlled. We were fools. He performed a gesture with his upper arms, a complex movement that made older Vethkai and the audience gasp. It was the gesture of profound respect, a sign that had not been offered to another species in 6,000 years. Humanity did not conquer us with their weapons. They saved us with their wisdom. They tried to warn us, and we would not listen. They showed us mercy when we deserved none. They offered their hand in friendship when they had every reason to offer only war. He lowered his head. We were wrong about humanity. We thought you were children stumbling in the dark. We did not realize that you were the only ones who could see in it. Elena felt tears forming in her eyes, but kept her composure. This moment was too important for personal feelings. The past is past, she said gently. What matters now is the future. And the future requires all of us. She touched the control again. The display changed to show a single ship, larger than any of the others, its hull marked with the name U. East James Okonkwo. This is our new flagship, Elena announced. It carries the name of the man who gave his life to save us all. Admiral Okonkwo believed that humanity's purpose was not to rule the galaxy, but to protect it. This ship and the fleet it leads will honor that belief. A door at the side of the chamber opened, and a woman walked in. She was young for a flag officer, with Asian features and short black hair streaked with gray. She wore the uniform of the United Galactic Defense Initiative, a new design that combined elements from 30 different species. On her chest was a single medal, the Star of Okonkwo, given to those who served at the Battle of the Threshold. This is Fleet Admiral Yuki Tanaka, Elena said. She will command our combined fleet when we meet the swarm. Admiral Tanaka saluted the assembly. I served under Admiral Okonkwo for 12 years. He taught me that strength means nothing without purpose, and purpose means nothing without hope. We have all three now. Strength in our ships, purpose in our mission, and hope in each other. She walked to stand beside Elena, and together they looked out at the assembled species. The Void Swarm destroyed the architects 10,000 years ago, Tanaka said. They thought they were alone. They thought they had to face the darkness by themselves. They were wrong. Today, we are not alone. Today, we face the darkness together. And together, we will not fall. The chamber erupted in cheers and calls of support. Species that had been enemies for centuries now shouted encouragement side by side. The fear was still there, but something else had grown stronger. Unity. The final scene of that historic day came hours later. In the quiet of space above Nexus Prime. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the UES James Okonkwo. Through the viewport, she could see the fleet gathering. Dark matter warships from 40 species powered up their drives. Their hulls shimmered with energy that bent light and twisted space. Each ship was crewed by beings who had chosen to stand against the end of everything. Her first officer, a young Vethkai named Kethtolus, stood beside her. He was the High Arbiter's great-grandson, one of thousands of aliens who had volunteered to serve on human ships. "Admiral," he said, "the fleet is ready. All 300 vessels report green across the board. We await your orders." Tanaka looked toward the edge of the galaxy, toward the darkness where the swarm waited. They were coming. They had destroyed civilizations before. They thought they would destroy this one too. They were wrong. "Signal all ships," she said calmly. "Set course for the outer rim. We will meet the enemy at the edge of forever. We will show them that this galaxy is not their prey." She paused and allowed herself a small smile. "They're coming," she said quietly. To herself, to her crew, to the memory of Admiral Okonkwo, to every soul in the galaxy who had chosen to fight instead of surrender. Good. Let them come. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. 300 ships carrying the hopes of 30 species vanished into the stars. Behind them, the galaxy waited and hoped and believed. For the first time in 10,000 years, the darkness had something to fear.